and welcome to Too Many Movies, the podcast where we discuss DVDs, Blu-rays, and even the occasional VHS tape. I'm your host, Hal, and with me here today, I got a couple of boys with me. Brian, introduce yourself.
Oh, hi. I'm Brian. I'm known as the Seth MacFarlane expert in my friend group, and nothing else important, I think. So, yeah, that's something.
No, nothing else.
Yeah, nothing else.
I think I'm good.
And Zander, introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Zander with a Z, not an X. Fuck you. I do letterbox reviews. I'm also doing YouTube now. That's it. I like doing stuff. I like reviewing movies. It's fun.
Nice. Boys, I asked you here today because I wanted the next episode after my whole William Showgirls debacle episode to be the Barbenheimer episode. But it just didn't end up working out that way. I'm going on vacation soon. It was just not going to work out that way. So I had to do this last minute where I had to come up with something. So I was like, hey, anybody want to talk about Salt? And you guys volunteered, and I made you guys watch Salt. Hey, let's talk about Salt.
Okay.
Yeah, so let me introduce this. Let me explain. So obviously with my podcast, I started it for my movie collection. I have this big wall of DVDs, Blu-rays, and occasional VHS tapes standing behind my laptop currently. Where, I said the thing. And it's just stuff I've never seen before.
Mm-hmm.
And one of those DVDs was I just pulled out at random, and it's called Salt. It's a movie starring Angelina Jolie. It's an action movie. Boy, howdy, does it suck.
See, I knew nothing about this before you brought it up, other than it was called Salt. So that didn't tell me anything. But I guess it was better than I expected. Because that'd be really boring, and it was only kind of boring. So I guess that's better.
Sure.
But
yeah, I guess that's better. Xander, what did you think of it?
Okay, so the problem with this movie was that I tried watching it 3 different times.
Okay. 3?
So
I only knew about the one. Okay.
Okay, so the first time, I was like, okay. I was pulling up all-nighters for editing, since I was editing my video, and I was like, okay, I could watch this movie, I can relax, and then instantly I fell asleep watching it. The next day I tried again, and what happened was I straight up just passed out from different reasons. So that was a very fun experience, right? And yeah, no, I don't want to talk about that. But the actual movie, I think it's better than usual action garbage, but that isn't saying much, you know?
No, not really.
I remember one time I think dad was like watching it, because my dad gives no shit about movies except for like action movies. He watches every once in a while. And
that makes sense.
I remember I saw Angelina Jolie as like, she's not hot, I don't care. And then I moved on. And then now years later you bring back the memory of it through this, and Salt is still on Netflix, and now I watched it through there. So that was fun.
Not on Canadian Netflix. I have to what a shame.
No, it's not in Canada Netflix.
What a
They
shame.
have very good options, but
Darn you Canadians, you're like Ruby Gilman, you're all blue.
Can't believe I couldn't financially support Salt for this. I'm very disappointed.
I know. Damn you, Trudeau. denying Canadians Salt.
For real.
You only get pepper. That's all you get.
You only get pepper, exactly.
Very true.
Yeah, I think I'm with you guys. I don't think it's as bad as I was expecting, but like, it's Salt. Like, that doesn't mean it was great. Like, it's an Angelina Jolie ego stroking fest where it's just like, whoa, isn't she cool? She's the action hero. But
whoa, she's like, so badass. Wow. Even though most of the action scenes in this suck, but that's another.
Yeah, they're not great action scenes. The most I got out of this movie when it came to the action was the scene where she's like jumping onto different trucks on the highway.
That was so stupid.
Like that. Yeah, it was stupid, but at least like something interesting was happening. You know, it wasn't just like people punching each other being filmed by shaky cams in a dark hallway. Like that's pretty much what this was.
Oh yeah.
I'm looking at the back of the box here, and it because this is a DVD from the 2010s and 2000s. Like they plaster it with like fucking quotes being like, "Oh, this is a great movie." So one that really sticks out to me is this one from David Basner of MTV/VH1 Radio Network.
What a trustworthy place! Wow.
Yeah, trustworthy source. I always go to David for the most trustworthy
of MTV, the place that canceled Clone High. I always trust them. Yeah.
Oh, very true, very true. But his quote here that they decided to put on the back of this DVD was "More charm than Bond and more strength than Bourne." It's like
okay.
Yeah.
I haven't seen either franchise, but I don't believe that.
I don't believe any of those. I have seen plenty of Bond and Bourne films, and I can tell you, Salt is neither Bond nor Bourne.
It's always funny to me when they do these for like when they have to pull critic quotes from movies nobody likes, so they just scrape the fucking bottom of the barrel.
Like the fucking like small article people or like MTV.
Fucking MTV critic.
Yeah, exactly. It's
MTV's
so
not
desperate.
known for its prestige, so
no, they're known for teen pregnancies and maybe music videos.
Yeah, well, they used to be. Now they're just like nothing.
No, it's just teen pregnancy.
Yeah. I was like, oh god.
Well, at least some of the spirits alive.
But like, I feel like we should explain what this movie's about. So why don't I read the back of this box? Just like read what the movie.
Sure. Read
what
the
movie's
synopsis.
supposed. Yeah, let me read the synopsis just so that because like I need to refresh my memory.
Me
this
too.
movie's so forgettable.
Me too.
I watched this today and I forget some of it already.
Yeah.
I forgot like 75% of it. I'm sorry.
Well,
yeah. So here goes. Evelyn Salt, a trusted and loyal CIA operative, CIA,
whoa,
goes on the run when a Russian defector convinces her superiors that she's a double agent sent to assassinate the President of the United States. Well, wait a minute. Well, wait, no, because like she was sent to assassinate the President of Russia and then the President of the United States, right? And what was up with the JFK assassination?
Okay,
that was the weird part. That was the part that caught my attention the most. They were just like, at the beginning, like, oh, what's this? The John F. Kennedy assassination's a part of Salt. Okay.
Yeah.
And then that was like only a couple minutes in, so my interest peaked near the beginning. But
the main thing about the concept is this kind of nonsense. Okay, so you're saying these Russian people, like, they had all these children, and one of them was Lee Harvey Oswald, sorry, and he like went to assassinate JFK, and that's sort of connected to this like Russian kids program for some reason, even though he got shot by a random dude later on. This makes no sense. There's like conspiracy theories about that, but it's like
So as the no, I mean we really need to focus on this. So the plot of the movie is that Evelyn Salt was a Russian spy the whole time.
Yeah, like a deep sleeper agent.
Yeah, a deep sleeper agent. Yeah, we were making the jokes while watching this movie in VC that it was practically just Winter Soldier.
Somewhat.
But a lot of it didn't really make any sense because, like, again, they brought up the whole JFK assassination. I'm like, what does this have to do with anything? Like, just show her as a double agent. Like, it's really confusing when she like goes rogue because, like, I don't understand what she's doing.
The problem with it is that Angelina Jolie doesn't really show either side of herself. She feels like a very centrist person. She doesn't have any personality, and she's just kind of standing there until she has to like switch. It's like you're flipping a switch. She has nothing interesting about her. You think
she already doesn't make sense on a base level, and then you add that, and that just like worse because you.
First of all, why would Russians send her to work for the U.S. for so long just to build herself up when you could easily just bomb somewhere? I don't know. You could do anything else.
Yeah, it's like such a confusing motive because like I get the idea of like double agents, but it's like, oh, you're brought up from birth to like, Well, so the way they explain it is they have like these Russian children, and they're just like, these Russian children have been speaking English long before they've been speaking Russian. It's like, okay, then they're gonna side with the United States.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
no, the problem is
you
you're kind of setting up for yourself for disaster because now you're making them go to side with. It's not even like there's multiple of them. It's just like this one like woman who was sent there.
This one specific group of children as sleeper agents, but you're teaching them to,
not be sleeper agents. They're meant to be.
Yeah, you're teaching them to essentially just be American children, to grow up to be Americans. It's like, at what point do they, side with you then?
Even on like the sleeper agent concept, it feels like they don't bring attention to it. It feels like this just kind of happens.
Yeah.
Right.
It's not like developed a lot at all, really. It just kind of happens.
And then they don't even do anything to like, even in like actions, they don't do anything to like make me believe that Angelina Jolie would side with them, because later in the movie they straight up just kill her husband in front of her, and she's supposed to accept that, and not once does it cross the Russians' minds like, oh, this is good, we'll shoot her husband to send a message, even though she was pretty much doing everything we told her to. Like, it makes no sense at all. I guess my theory is that they put that in there to make the Russians the bad guys because, well, this is a American movie from 2010. Like, anybody who's not America is the bad guy.
Yep.
But they still want that like black and they still want that gray anti-hero as like a main character, but they're not smart enough.
It's what it's like.
Make something.
It's like the Sony. It's like the Sony Marvel villain movies where they're like.
Oh, that's a good comparison, actually.
Because I haven't seen Venom, but I've heard terrible things about how they try to handle the whole
Venom
anti-hero
2,
thing.
but not Venom 1 for some reason.
I've seen both Venom movies, but that is a good comparison. How they're like.
They're trying to make them like moral, even though they're anti-heroes. Yes. It's like, okay.
Well, they're like pussyfooting around the idea of them being actual villains.
Because they still need to market it to teenagers, which are
they call them anti-hero movies, but they just have another antagonist.
They don't want to rile up. They don't want to rile up the parents about like Joker and how they it's gonna ruin kids and cause school shootings.
Oh no. Venom can't kill people. Oh no!
Remember that whole Joker like school shooting crisis after the Dark Knight Rises incident, where it's like, this Joker 2019 movie, which is against its own like Joker's own beliefs and actively protests it. It's actually
I thought Joker was gonna fucking cause riots.
They thought Joker was gonna cause riots, and then nothing happened, and then Frozen 2 came out, and some guy got stabbed at a Frozen 2 screening.
Oh, I didn't know about that.
I didn't know about that. Okay. Interesting.
I may be misremembering that, but I do remember something like some news story coming out about that. Like some dude just got stabbed at a Frozen 2.
That'd be incredibly fucking ironic.
No, okay. Oh shit!
Yeah, but like that's what I'm saying. Like, this is such a confusing movie because like you don't understand anybody's motives.
Yeah.
And like, because like the fact that this is a main character who's like this double agent, you don't know if she's willing to side with the Americans or the Russians, but like the whole movie, her like plot, like her plot relevance is to assassinate the president of Russia and then assassinate the president of the United States. And you're just like, should I really be rooting for this character for doing that? And then last minute, they pull the Liev Schreiber twist where he's like, no, I was a Russian agent the whole time. And you're just like, I'm sorry? What?
Yeah, that makes no sense. Because, like, okay, if he's in control of everything, couldn't you just easily dismantle it one by one without Salt? So why would Salt be there in the first place if he was already there?
What point, why was the point when he, revealed himself as the Russian agent? Why was that the point he decided to reveal himself when, like, the whole movie he could have done that? Or like at no point was that ever established that this could, like, it comes out of nowhere.
It's trying
because we gotta have our dramatic third act twist.
They want that dramatic third act twist. They want Angelina Jolie to be the sympathetic main character, so they're just like, oh, we gotta make some other character not sympathetic so you do side with her. But it's just confusing.
It's confusing because they don't set up anything in particular. They just like say that they imply these things, but they never show it, and they never have any ground to cover. They just kind of go about it by just like, oh, let's just keep moving the action, keep moving. Look at Angelina Jolie doing all these stunts. It's like,
yeah, they set up all these concepts and ideas, but then like nothing is actually done with them to make them like good or developed. And then the movie ends, and you're like, oh, that was it. That
like
was
I said,
all.
this is like one of those movies
Okay.
you'd like. My dad would force me to go see, just as he watched it on like Netflix, and it's like, okay, I'm watching this movie, but also I'm asleep inside my mind. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? I don't care.
It's the type of action movie you find like randomly on TV once, like a scene, and then never again. It just, I don't know. I don't, like I said, I don't think I heard of it until we did this fucking episode. So
yeah, no, it reminds me. It reminds me of a different movie I've talked about on the podcast, and this was like early podcast. Oh. This was like like episode 3. I talked about this movie called From Paris with Love with John Travolta.
Oh wait, no, I remember that episode. That was
wow.
Yeah,
wow,
yeah, that was
wow, crazy.
Yeah, pre-gas towel. Yeah, no, that was one where like, but it was like the same concept. There was like this late 2000s, mid 2010s, like American action movie that's just like, you don't often see these kinds of movies anymore where like they're obviously stroking the ego of some like big Hollywood celebrity. You get the most generic looking DVDs made of them, and they're just forgotten to time until, you know, over a decade later where I talk about them on the podcast. Like, you know, you don't see these kinds of movies anymore, and for good reason. Like, there's a reason director Philip Noyce, yes, that is his real name, Philip Noyce,
I noticed that.
Hasn't really made anything beyond Salt in terms of popularity. I think Salt is like his most popular film on Letterboxd, which is pretty funny.
I thought you were gonna say Philip J. Fry. God damn it! The only other movie I've seen from him
Icy
is
Wiener.
The Giver. If you haven't read the book, it's a great book. The adaptation is terrible. I don't like thinking about it, but yeah, I guess he made that.
Yeah,
I don't recognize any of these other things, so I assume it's just some random director they pulled in. But
some generic action film director.
The Giver is a very obvious book, but I'm pretty sure the director just makes it as obvious as possible, despite already obvious material. It's really bad.
Yeah, that sounds bad. Couple of things I wanted to mention.
What about the sequel anticipation ending? You know.
Oh yeah, so the ending you were saying, like, it's such a terrible ending. Well, not only does she like kill Liev Schreiber in such a ridiculous way, where she takes like her handcuffs and just chokes him by like jumping off a balcony, and then he's just dead. And then oh god, I gotta like look at this guy's name. Chiwetel Ejiofor. I hope I'm saying that right.
That's a hard name to do. I know who he is, but like, fuck, it's hard to say his name.
Yeah, he's Mordo in the Doctor Strange movies. He's Scar in The Lion King. He's in 2012. You know, the best movies.
In, 12 Years a Slave. That's the odd one out. Oh,
okay, yeah. So he's been in good stuff. It's just the things that I've seen him in are just absolute dog shit. But
he was also in the Maleficent like sequel. Oh god.
Oh my god. He was in Maleficent, Mistress of Evil, which also had Angelina Jolie. So this is
wow. All of
Angelina Jolie. No, he called him up. She called him up and was like, "What the? Hey man, you want to get on? I know we haven't talked since Salt, but you know we can come back."
You want to be in Maleficent 2, a movie where we unironically have a gas chamber for fairy tale creatures.
Excuse me.
That's the thing that happened.
Wait,
Are you guys not familiar with
I haven't watched it. Okay. I stayed away from that live action video.
Okay, look, I have seen the first Maleficent. I have not seen the second one.
Okay, so in Maleficent 2, Mistress of Evil, there is literally a scene where the bad guys lure all the fairy tale and woodland creatures into a church, and then this woman starts playing the church organ, and the church organ starts like releasing this like magical gas that like kills all the fairy creatures.
Excuse me?
And they trap all the fairy tale creatures.
This kind of reminds me of the South Park episode of Woodland Critters Christmas.
Yeah.
Because you said woodland critters, so like I just thought about that.
I'm not kidding. When I started watching that scene, my brain broke and I started crying, laughing. And then for the rest of the movie, I was just crying, laughing out of like a defense mechanism. And that's the only thing I remember from that movie is the fact that like, these fairy tale creatures.
Good job.
It was a very good coping mechanism. It's what got me through that movie and made me think like, well, it was shit, but I guess it wasn't as shit as the first Maleficent. I mean, they're both terrible, so it doesn't matter.
We're crossing very high bars here, I see.
Yeah, very high bars. But anyway, speaking of better than Maleficent, Salt. Yeah, but that ending, yeah, no, you're right. It's like setting up a sequel because, well, it doesn't even really feel like it's setting up a sequel. It feels like it's actively going to like the next part of the movie where it's just like, I got to go and defeat them. Like she keeps saying like them and they.
Yeah,
because like, who's them? Who's they?
Very vague, and then she like jumps out of the helicopter. She like runs through the forest, and then it ends. And it's like it's not even like a satisfying like cliffhanger. It feels like it just ended. Okay.
It's ending the same way that like Independence Day Resurgence ends or Artemis Fowl ends, where it's like it's doing it so blatantly to set up a sequel that it thinks, oh, if we do this so blatantly, then the studio will have to greenlight a sequel. But the studio never did, and so it's been years, and your ending is just embarrassing. In which case,
maybe we can get a
just
Salt Legacy sequel in a couple.
Yeah, can we get Pepper?
Yeah, we need Pepper.
It's always so funny when movies like this do that, but then like the sequel they're baiting never happens. So we're just fucking left with a cliffhanger.
Yeah, it's weird. It's like Salt's cliffhanger ending like doesn't linger long enough to really matter, while Across the Spider-Verse kind of like overdoes it, you know? It's like
but at least we know that Across the Spider-Verse is going to get a sequel because well, one, it's good, and two, it made money.
It made like $600 million. Like it's gonna make
like people actually want to see a sequel to that, whereas like Salt was never guaranteed a sequel. I'm sure there's some like diehard Salt heads out there.
Whatever Salt heads are watching this, we're sorry.
I was checking. I think this technically made its budget back, but not like by a lot. It was 110 million apparently, and it only made 293 back. So that technically made its budget back, but if you count marketing and shit into that, I doubt it was a huge success.
No, because I mean, again, like you guys said, you've never heard of this before this episode, so
definitely not. So.
Yeah, it made nearly 300 million on a $100 million budget, but who gives a shit anyway?
Yeah, that's not
clear. That wasn't enough for the studio.
There's some movies that are technically successful, but that doesn't really mean anything. And plus, that budget doesn't even account for marketing.
It's successful in the high like air quotes. It's like
exactly.
Technically, it made your budget.
It's back. It's like Elemental, where people are saying, it made its budget back." Dude, do you remember how much
even
marketing was put
even
into this?
Yet, so
do you not remember how much marketing for fucking Claude was? There was so much.
Oh no! Don't remind me of the Claude marketing. No.
Look, man.
The Claude marketing.
They really should put all their money in Wade Ripple. But
Zander, I think you have Elemental PTSD.
Help me. Help.
You close your eyes.
Claude can't save you now.
Every time I close my eyes, all I see is Wade Ripple.
Claude can giveth and Claude can taketh away. Couple of more things I just wanted to mention about this movie. There's a sticker on the back that says "Disc made in Austria." You know, if that means anything.
Why?
I don't know. It just says disc made in Austria.
Does Austria have like special disc material? Like what the fuck?
I guess so.
Maybe.
You know, I don't know.
Sure.
But also, this is I just want to mention this is a deluxe unrated edition of Salt. Okay. So not only does it have the original theatrical film, which we watched, it also has 2 unrated extended cuts, which I have not watched yet. Two. So we have the unrated director's cut, which is about 4 minutes longer than the theatrical version. And then we have the unrated extended cut, which is only a minute longer than the theatrical. So the director's cut is longer than the extended cut.
Wow, they have weird. Wow. Peter Jackson's got some competition right here. Wow.
So wait, why is why is it called the extended cut if it's not the longest cut? Like,
it's still technically extended.
I guess, but only by like a minute.
Yeah. What extra minute
Why
is
would
there?
you even
Is it just
specify
I don't
an
know.
extended cut then?
Is there an extended scene where it's just like sitting
For
there?
all we know, it could be 1
Nothing
minute
happened.
of credits. We'd be none the
Yeah,
wiser.
yeah. So I guess I could have looked up what the two extended cuts, like what makes them different from the theatrical cut, but I forgot to.
Okay, you
and
could.
also
Okay,
I don't
if
care.
you try to compare the original cut to like the extra minute cut, like without researching it, then I think it'd be impossible. Legit, I don't think you could find it.
I don't think anyone cares to know. So
IMDb probably doesn't even have any trivia on this movie.
I mean, look, maybe the extended cuts explain the whole Russian plan to indoctrinate American children.
I guess in 1 minute they solved their issues.
That 1 minute specifically, we'd never know.
Yeah, maybe in that 1 minute it explains it. You're just like, oh, now I get it.
Okay.
Thanks, Russia.
Maybe Russia.
I love Russia. Oh no. Wait, I didn't say anything.
Intervened with salt.
Oh wait a minute. Hold on. Okay, I checked IMDb trivia because I thought no, there wouldn't be any trivia on this. Apparently, Salt was originally a man.
Okay.
And Tom Cruise was gonna play him.
Oh, Tommy Cruise dodged a bullet.
Well,
this was right after he did.
But then it was rewritten, and then apparently to combat Tom Cruise's signature practical effects, she apparently did most of her own stunts. Good for her.
Good for Angelina Jolie. I don't care.
She did it. If Tom Cruise did it, it'd probably be more interesting because it'd be like a noticeable miss.
Oh wait, Salt is based off an actual thing.
It's based off an actual thing?
Yeah, strategical arms limitation talks. The talks in 1969 and 1979 were between USA and Soviet Union during the Cold War. Okay.
Okay, that sounds vastly more interesting.
It sounds vastly more interesting than the movie we're talking about right now. It's crazy.
Yeah, exactly.
Can't believe Angelina Jolie was actually an assassin in real life. Crazy.
Yeah. With those legs?
Ooh.
So good.
I don't want to go into horny details.
Yeah, no, we shouldn't. All right, dudes, is there anything else we have to say about Salt?
I don't think so.
Okay. Now, here's my question to, first to Brian. Brian, do you own Salt on DVD, even though you never heard of it?
Well, I wish I could pull it out of the hat right now, but sadly, it's not in my collection.
Okay. Very tragic. Zander, do you have Salt on DVD?
You know what? I definitely have the 4K of it. I definitely do. But no. Yeah, of course I don't. But I did watch it on Netflix legally. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think I'm going to join you guys in not owning Salt. So, sadly, Salt will not be joining the collection.
Well, you don't put salt on your food? You're just going to put pepper now?
I'm just going to put pepper on, apparently. I'm so anti-salt now, I'm cutting salt out of my diet. No,
it's too salty.
It's too salty.
What an assault.
But Salt, we did it. What an assault.
Salt to my senses.
See, if you know nothing about this movie, who the fuck's gonna be like, man, I really want to watch Salt? Like, how does that help you? It's called Salt.
No, if you say the title of the movie in general, it's just like, who the fuck cares?
Because remember when you were like, all right, we're doing Salt. I'm like, the fuck is that? What kind of movie is called Salt? I thought you were joking. Yeah. It was called Salt.
You were joking. No, Salt is very much real and very much not in the collection, unfortunately. But it's fine. It's fine.
It's a salty taste on the collection. You got to remove it.
I know. Yeah, no, that's true. You know what's funny is before I started doing guest episodes regularly, I don't do solo episodes anymore. My plan was to actually do Salt a lot earlier because I wanted to talk about it with Time Runner, but then obviously back last year I didn't have time to do Time Runner because of other obligations, and also because my VHS player last year broke before I could replace it.
Man,
that was a whole thing. But originally there was going to be a Time Runner Salt episode, but that never came to fruition.
Wow, it just happened to fall into our arms. Wow.
Yeah. In the early podcast, you did a lot of random action movies. So I guess it would fit actually.
It would
so,
fit. Yeah. Salt seems like the odd one out now. It's weird.
Oh. Yeah, Salt does seem like the odd one out. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to do Time Runner this episode because I already did a Time Runner episode.
Oh,
but what else should we talk about? Oh, I know. How about a little movie we watched called Ed Wood?
So good. Wow. I love this movie.
So, this is not like Salt because, well, this is actually a good movie.
Crazy. There's a lot of action-packed sequences in this one.
Yeah, a lot of action-paction in Ed Wood. So, Brian, what'd you think of Ed Wood?
Oh, see, I'm actually glad you picked this because this was in like the limbo of movies I've always wanted to get to, but then I forget about watching for like years. There's like a good dozen or so movies in that, and but no, I really loved it actually. I kind of expected that because for most people, I think I've seen people call it Tim Burton's best movie. At least from what I've seen, I would definitely say that's the case. But yeah, it was a great, jolly old time. Good fun was had by all. Yeah.
Good, excellent. I'm glad to hear that you agree that it's one of his better ones. Zander, what'd you think of Ed Wood?
As someone who has very mixed feelings on Tim Burton as a director, and my overall evolution in terms of how I view him as a director, I've always seen this movie as something that I could never actually watch because I thought, well, I would need to know more about Ed Wood. And another thing was that it was considered his best, so I kind of wanted to go through his other more worser shit to get to that. And another thing was there was Red Letter Media show.
Oh yeah,
Red Letter Media show review. I think I told you this before, Hal, but yeah, right before recording. I remember watching their Ed Wood episode, and I really piqued my interest even further, and so I always wanted to get to it, but it was always something I never thought I'd get eventually because I was always too busy doing other things at the time. Right. So yeah, now we're here, and I finally watched the movie, and it's probably my favorite Tim Burton movie now. So.
Oh, definitely,
excellent.
But yeah, I think I'm glad you brought that video up because that was not when I first heard of it because I'd heard of it before, but that's when I was like, oh yeah, this movie sounds pretty great. I should probably watch it. And then that video was years ago, so I didn't get around to it until now, obviously. But I'm glad I did. That's a great video. But
I forgot that they did a review on Ed Wood. I need to watch that after this because
it's a great episode.
I know. I love review. I'm more partial to Best of the Worst as I've been binging that recently, but review is very good.
Review is my favorite personally of Red Letter Media shows. So it's great.
Yeah.
I think it gets less repetitive than Best of the Worst sometimes. I don't know. You've seen one of them. You've kind of seen a good chunk. At least that's in my book.
Yeah. But then again, Best of the Worst is how I discovered Faust. So
okay, well that's true.
That's true.
We couldn't not have Faust.
But anyway, Ed Wood. Now obviously this is a biopic on the titular main character, Ed Wood himself, who was a real person. He was a real director.
Edward D. Wood Jr. As a matter of fact.
Edward D. Wood Jr. Yes, he was a real director, and he directed shit.
Terrible movies.
Terrible movies. No, so I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Ed Wood was a terrible director. He was not very good at what he did.
Yeah.
He made some of the most boring movies I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I've seen 3 of his movies officially. That is Bride of the Monster, Plan 9 from Outer Space, and a movie that was not covered in this movie, The Sinister Urge. All of them are just awful. Just so, and you know what? Because over the past couple of years, I've become more acquainted with what I like to call so bad they're good movies. You know, the kind of schlock that you watch to make fun of. I love that sort of shit. I love that schlocky kind of garbage movies that just you get so much out of by just making fun of them. And Ed Wood essentially pioneered those kinds of movies.
Yeah.
But even though he pioneered them, you watch them and they're just miserable. They're just so boring.
Okay, let me explain my sort of history with it, because it's like, okay.
Sure.
So, Edward D. Wood Jr. was always a man I've heard of, in terms of bad filmmaking and bad movies, bad B movies in general. I still need to, like, search through that genre of, like, B movies and, like, terrible or so bad as good movies. But he was always, like, the one name everyone always said. He has a whole biopic on it, this movie. And I remember distinctively, I was going through Tubi. It's, like, my new favorite streaming service. I was like, okay, let's see here.
Good. Excellent.
See here, and say Plan 9 from Outer Space, the most infamously bad movie of all time. I sit down, I watch it, and 30 minutes in, I started going on my phone because it was really boring. It was so boring. The main thing.
I had a kind of similar experience. Because I remember, this would have been like, I think 2020, like early 2020, around then. But I remember because I know James Rolfe from Cinemassacre, he I think I saw one of his videos, he talked about it. And talked about Ed Wood in general. Well, we all said how he pioneered so bad good movies, and I had heard all this hype around it. So then one time I find it, and I'm like, oh, I remember it was. I know it's well, this movie is one of the worst movies ever made according to some people. It's not, but that's what people call it. And I was like, how can you be disappointed by that? But I remember I was so excited because I was like, oh, this is one of the legendary so bad it's good movies. This is gonna be a great time. And then I will go in. And I was so fucking disappointed because 10 minutes in, I'm like, that's it? Is it this shit for 90 minutes? And then I was really bored.
That's Plan 9 from Outer Space? That was just a bunch of cheap sets.
So yeah, fuck Ed Wood.
Ed Wood betrayed us.
Yeah, no, it was literally that. Ed Wood let me down. So fuck Ed Wood. I hate him.
Well, you know what? After watching this movie, I don't hate Ed Wood. I respect him more just because I understand that even though he made terrible movies, and make no mistake, they're terrible movies.
Oh, definitely.
We're not going to I don't I know people who will just be like, oh, they're not that bad. Some of them are actually secretly good. It's like, no, there will be no secret revisionist history on Ed Wood. The dude was psychotic. He made some of the worst movies in recent memory, or just in general in cinematic history.
Yeah.
But and thanks to this movie, he had a passion for filmmaking that I greatly respect. And Johnny Depp brings this he brings such enthusiasm to his performance of Ed Wood, where you watch this movie and you're just convinced that what you're watching is this amazing story about this dude making something that he's passionate for. He's doing something he loves. He's doing it with people he loves being around, and that's a good thing. And you're just like, wow, this makes me want to rewatch Plan 9 from Outer Space to see if it's any good.
Yeah.
I know, literally right after this finished, I was like, oh man, I want to watch an Ed Wood movie, but I'm like, hold on. Don't get ahead of yourself, bro.
You have to stop yourself because you're just like, nope, wait a minute. It's boring.
This movie's just such a good job. It makes you get into the spirit of his movies.
This is such a geniusly manipulative movie.
Yeah, because I don't even mean manipulative in a bad way. It's such
not even manipulative in a bad way. It's such a good movie because it fools you into thinking this much greater story. Right. And sure, you can look at it as a much greater story. In fact, I think. When I was doing research on him, it was very fascinating to hear about how his whole sexuality and his whole fucking fascination with this material. I forgot what it's called, Fangora or whatever it was. Yeah, and
Fangora. Yeah,
I remember that.
And there's such an interesting story behind something like Glenn or Glenda or Plan 9 from Outer Space or Bride of the Monster involving with whole Bela Lugosi, and it's bleh. Sorry, I can't speak right now, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah. No. It's very much, it's in a way kind of the opposite of The Disaster Artist for me, where it's taking this infamously bad production history of bad movies and turning it into a Hollywood spectacle, which is, kind of ironic considering the creators of those movies were thinking they were making something on the same level as that Hollywood spectacle. But I feel like where this succeeds, whereas the disaster artist doesn't really succeed, is that like this movie kind of brings a personality that you want to be around to Ed Wood movies, where you're just like, wow, this is fun, this is exciting, it's cheesy, but in a good way. Whereas I feel like the disaster artist, in trying to capture the zaniness of The Room, it loses what made The Room so funny because it's filmed in such a boring and generic way. You know, especially because this movie, Ed Wood, is directed by Burton, who has a style to it. Like, he has a style to him. Like his movies, obviously that style does not work in every movie he's made, and he has made some pretty awful movies. But like this is one where like his style really complements the tone of the movie because it's so cheesy and twisted and dark, but in a fun way.
Okay. Like the main vibe, there's like a really weird vibe to this movie where it's like, okay, you're viewing this from like Ed Wood's perspective. It's just like fabricated reality, but at the same time, there's just like alluring darkness behind every single frame of this movie. Where it's like, oh yeah, Bela Lugosi. This man is like a depressive, like mentally ill alcoholic or like druggie, and he's in such a depressive state. And you know, what's his name again? Martin Landau. He really sells
Martin Landau. Let's talk about Bela Lugosi in this movie. So I said Johnny Depp as Ed Wood is very good, but the performance that really steals the show is Martin Landau as Bela Lugosi.
He's uncanny. It's so weird.
So good. It is one of my favorite performances from an actor portraying a real person. Like,
I'd agree.
He brings such like humanity to this like silver screen icon in a way that feels both like real in a like a depressing way, but real in like a celebratory way, where like you can definitely tell that Martin Landau and Tim Burton have respect for the person who was Bela Lugosi, whether that's Bela Lugosi the icon or Bela Lugosi the person. Like, they have great respect for him, and they like take this performance, they like take this person and just breathe just such new life into him, where like like you said, like it's uncanny. Like I remember I watched like Dracula around the time, one of the times I watched this movie, like I watched both this movie and Dracula around the same time as one another, and I was like taken aback. I'm like, oh my god, it's so uncanny. Like he's so good at just pretty much just becoming Bella.
He really looks like a much like fatter and like older like Bella. It's so weird.
It's so weird, but like it works. Like you really feel like the dude has seen some shit in his life, you know, ever since becoming Dracula. Like, he's been chewed up and spit out by the industry. He's been addicted to morphine for 20 years. He's just at the end of his rope. And here comes Edward D. Wood Jr. with being like, hey, want to be in my movie? And he's like, you know what? Yes. And I think that's really something special. Seeing this man, like, essentially at the end of his life, just doing something to make him happy, you know?
There's something really beautiful about this, because Ed Wood, he grew up really loving, like, Pulp Fiction, and he, like, obsessed over, like, comics. And he even sometimes took, like, poster hang-ups from theaters when they threw them out. And he just, like, looking at the images of it. And I guess, like, and from my interpretation from the movie and from history itself, he loves Dracula. And I think he just kind of saw some sort of humanity in Dracula. Because if you look at the movie, there's this iconic shot where it's like, oh, you can focus in on Dracula's eyes and face. And to me, that kind of reflects how, I guess, Ed Wood viewed him as a person. Like this, human, this human monster. Because he's always so fascinated by the gory or, like, the fucking, like, fanatical of it all. It's, like, really interesting how, like, Ed Wood views it and how, like, Bela Lugosi actually is and how his life has turned out.
Well, it's interesting how, like, you see, like, you see Ed Wood, like, explain, like, his thought process when making movies, especially in scenes when, like, he's like there's that one scene where like he's filming Tor walking through the hallway in Bride of the Monster, and like Lobo goes through the door and he
shakes his shit, and he's struggling, and then he says like, yeah, but that's real.
Yeah, exactly. And you're just like, but it looks so stupid, but in his mind he can like make sense of it. So you're just like, you know what, fine, like it's his vision, it's his art, that's totally fine. Like whether or not I agree with it, it's what he believes. And I think that's what's so important about this movie, is that you understand why he made these movies the way he did.
The performance is kind of like infectious. Like he's so like, that's the main thing. He's just so endearing to watch that like I never find like, I feel like if they got the wrong person for the part, this movie would be really annoying. But the way like
if this was like 2000s Johnny Depp, this would not be good.
Yeah, he'd be doing his like Willy Wonka thing.
If we got like 2010s Burton and Depp on this,
oh god,
it would have been so bad.
This is the thing. I'm glad Tim Burton made this in like the 90s, because obviously this movie definitely has a style. It's literally in black and white, like stylistically, all that, and it looks beautiful, obviously. As you can.
There's so much attention to detail with like the shadows and all that. That's so cool.
Yeah, I was saying like while I was watching it, I'm like, not only is this in black and white to be like, oh haha, it's like an old Ed Wood film, but like there's intention behind the black and white. It's not, they don't just like make it black and white and put like a black and white filter over it.
It's not just a filter. They shoot it in like a really if you look at the sky, it kind of reminds me of like those old versions of like fake skies they used to make back in the day. It looks really reminiscent of that, and
it doesn't look half-assed at all. It's great.
It feels old. It feels like Tim Burton understands how to shoot something in black and white to pay homage to those old black and white movies that he grew up on. He doesn't just half-ass it like, any other hack director would. Like maybe in modern day he would do that because he's a hack director now, but you know what I'm saying? Like he has an understanding of what the black and white movies of yesteryear like invoke, like what those feelings of black and white invoke.
He grew up with that shit, so of course he's in touch with
so many good shadows, so many good like lighting effects. There's like certain scenes of like Bela Lugosi where like, you get the light like shined in a different way on his face. It's brilliant. It's so freaking brilliant that you're just like, there is thought put into how this movie is being made.
Looking at like every single frame of this movie, this feels like the most well thought out like Burton film, besides like A Nightmare Before Christmas.
Well, he didn't even.
He
didn't direct that exactly. He made the character designs and all that, but it's not really like.
Yeah. And he wrote the story because it is like Tim Burton's Nightmare Before Christmas. Yeah. But that is very much his fingerprints are definitely on Nightmare Before Christmas, but that is very much a Henry.
The only type of detail I see in this movie that I've seen any other of his stuff is his Batman movies. I don't think those movies are the best, but oh my god, looking at them, they're just so nice to look at.
They are nice to look at.
Something about like late 80s, like mid 90s, like Burton just looks so good.
No, Tim Burton, when he's not using CGI, is amazing. And then you get to Mars Attacks, and it looks like Mars Attacks.
I need to watch that.
I think the main thing is because he actually had to restrict himself to an actual story, obviously. He's like, because I feel like the worst, like, Tim Burton stuff, and he's like, okay, I'm going to do weird visuals for no reason because I can, because it's a fantasy movie. And you're like, okay, this kind of looks cool, but why
it's the Burton style.
Style over substance.
Yeah.
But no, because he's actually like, he has to restrain himself. It's an actual story. It's stylized, but it never goes like over the top of it.
Yeah,
that's a good point. It's not a fantasy Burton movie. Like it's very much grounded.
Oh no, it's very much a fabricated reality from his perspective. Like the whole music,
it's an exaggerated real story.
And then there's that moment where like him and Kathy are like in the dark ride, and it pauses, and everything goes dark, and they like profess their love, and he admits his like whole like swapping clothes and with women, and it's like looks really nice.
There's obviously moments that are fabricated. I entirely buy that, but they're still fabricated within a world of reality.
The way you view it is that, Ed Wood has this enthusiasm. There's like this whimsical music in the background, and then the rest of the crew are just like kind of moping around. They're just like, okay, let's keep going.
You know, the way I always imagine is the fabrication, just what Ed Wood thought it was like as it was happening. At least they don't directly say it because like they show he's so infectious and excited about everything. So not everything, but you know what I mean.
Not everything.
No, but you know what? That's a good point. That like that's how he's viewing it because because thinking about it, I remember reading somewhere that says like Dolores Fuller, like the real life Dolores Fuller. Didn't appreciate how the movie was made because it made her out to be like this bigot where like she didn't
I remember reading about this. Okay.
Yeah, you go ahead.
Yeah, okay. I remember so Dolores explained that generally she just didn't feel comfortable with that. She liked a full man, but you know, that's wasn't really her issue. The main thing was that she just like in general just didn't feel comfortable about it. She respected him for it. But it's that he I guess wasn't like he didn't tell her, and so it just didn't feel comfortable in the first place.
And I think the other thing, and the movie doesn't really touch on this that much. The one thing she also didn't really like was his alcoholism, and yes, he did die.
No, I remember this. The main thing is it wasn't really about the outfits; it was about like the alcoholism. That's what she said. And it's like exactly. And then the ending, and then there's the ending, which is just like Plan 9 absolutely bombed. It was failed, but he like walks out valiantly in the rain and is like, all right, you want to get married? Let's go get married. And they like drive off, and it's like
I feel like what makes this movie so genius is the fact that in Ed Wood's mind it ends with him being triumphant, being like, yes, I've made the movie I'm going to be going to be remembered for years. And to be fair, Plan 9 is his most famous movie.
It was.
Yeah, we're talking about Ed Wood now. He clearly has an impact. So
yeah, it clearly had an impact. It is it's his most popular film on Letterboxd. Like it's one when you think Ed Wood, you think Plan 9 from Outer Space.
Yeah,
and so there is some truth to that. He was remembered for it, but where the lie happens is that you don't understand. He doesn't understand why he is remembered, and
he
so
just kind of got what he wanted, but in like an ironic sort of sense.
You get hit with like the very ending where it's like saying like the "Where are they now" part of the biopic, where it's like, Ed Wood went on to become an even bigger failure and died an alcoholic in the late 70s at only age 54.
Okay, let me talk about
this. He directed porn, don't forget about that part.
And then he directed porn.
Okay, so the rest of his life after this was like, okay, he made pulp novels about like sexual activity, and then he went on to just do porn straight up. And eventually he just, so Kathy, it seemed like, I was happy they get married. But the most ironic thing about that is as they drove out, that was when the alcoholism became an even more apparent issue. And eventually, it got to a point where he just hid under his covers, and it was just like, I should have $1 million. That's what he said. He's like, I should have taken everything. And then he kept on giving him alcohol. And then the main thing was that Kathy stopped, and she walked out for like 15 minutes. She says, I can't breathe. And she thought it was lying. And then when a friend checked, he was dead. And the main thing about that is that she remembers that he looked so horrified in his last moment of breath, because it looked like he was like fucking screaming his head off in his final expression. And there's something weird about that, where it's like, this man, he just couldn't face the fact that he's gonna die, and and the whole like fabricated reality was just like, I should have $1 million when, no, you were a terrible director, you failed. But he did have some sort of honesty from that.
Right. Yeah, no, and that's the thing, is like the horrible depressing reality of it all is that Ed Wood was a terrible director, and this was his life of alcoholism and failure. But I feel like what this movie is trying to do is not necessarily give the facts as they were, but to celebrate the unintentional success that his movies eventually found, and that him as an icon eventually found. Because Ed Wood, yes, he's a terrible director, but there is some sort of sophistication in that title of worst director of all time, and that his movies worst movies of all time. Like, even though I think they're terrible, god-awful movies that aren't even that fun, I watched Bride of the Monster through Mystery Science Theater 3000. So I watched them, like, poke fun. And that's where I've got, like, enjoyment out of watching that movie, was watching Joel and the bots make fun of this movie. So, like, even though the movie didn't directly give me joy, something did through that. Through the movie gave me joy. And that's the thing with Ed Wood. He was not respected in his day, and to this day he's not really that respected. But in some weird, twisted way, he is respected, you know, because he did start this movement of, like, B movies and just terrible schlock, but terrible schlock that's passionately made, you know?
There is something passionate about Ed Wood movies. I may not enjoy them, but there is passion to them because they're human movies. Vision. It's his vision.
There's definitely, like, you can tell that Tim Burton loves Ed Wood, even though he acknowledges he was, like, a terrible director. I think that's, like, part of it. That's just part, because, like, acknowledge that he's, like, shitty, but it doesn't feel like he's beating down on him. Like, they just...
It's not like bad Tim Burton where it's like, oh, we're the underdogs, we're, like, inspiring. No, they're, like, this underdog, he's an idiot, but, you know, he's charming. He's charming.
Yeah. I buy Ed Wood as more strange and weird than I do Winona Ryder's character in Beetlejuice, who just outright goes, I'm strange and weird, you know?
Yeah, that's why I don't like Beetlejuice that much. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's not that
exactly.
I get people who like the movie, but in terms of the visual design, that movie looks really good, but, like, everything else about it, I'm just, like, kind of indifferent towards.
Like, I've always found it kind of style over substance, at least to me, but I don't know.
The main highlight was always just Michael Keaton for me, so, you know.
It has one of my favorite F-bombs in a PG movie where Michael Keaton as Beetlejuice.
So,
yes, that's what
give you that.
Nice fucking model! It's one of my favorites. But yeah, no, that's the genius of Ed Wood, the movie Ed Wood, is that, yes, you're making this biopic celebrating this failure of a human being, and you're still buying it. Like, you're still like, oh, wow, like, I'm so happy that he's succeeding with Plan 9, and then you get hit with the harsh reality of he died an alcoholic in the 70s. But that's the genius of the movie. Like, it's really convincing you. And
it's really a movie just about, like, trying to, I guess, cope or, like, try to make sense of a legacy that was covered in shit, but, like, had some sort of heart to it. And
there has to be something. Exactly.
Because despite everything, he could have done a lot more better, and he could have faced the facts a lot better, but it was his vision. So, you know.
Yeah, exactly. It was his vision. I completely buy that in it being his vision when he, like, you know, the climax of the movie is him meeting Orson Welles. And not Orson Welles, mind you, who would have actually looked like that in 1958. Like, Orson Welles in 1958, which I'm assuming that's around the time this movie takes place, was, like, a lot fatter and had, like, this big gray bushy beard. Like, he did not look like how he looked like in Kane. So it's it's just real, but that's because that adds to this being from Ed Wood's perspective. Yeah. Where, like, that's who he views Orson Welles as, is purely Citizen Kane Orson Welles. Yeah. So, of course, even though it's been nearly 20 years since Citizen Kane, he still looks like that in Ed Wood's eyes.
Also, when researching it, I don't think there's any record of that ever actually happening. Obviously,
but
that obviously doesn't.
It's something like about how he lied about. It's like something about how he lied about his military service, where it's like, no, you didn't get a silver star. You didn't get.
Oh yeah, there was that
any of that.
No, or like they like randomly dropped that he was in the war or something, which I think they get technically.
Yeah, okay. The main thing about
not like
is
entirely.
Okay, so him and his he had a trio of buddies. He went that were gonna sign up for the war, and he only signed up. It was only him, and so it ended up backfiring. And he says, "Oh, I was a war hero," but no, he was just a clinic worker. That's all it was.
So he didn't parachute. He didn't parachute into Normandy wearing women's brasiers.
Yeah, no. I mean, he probably did. He probably did wear woman brasiers, but not in like battle.
Yeah.
Not
yeah, but
battle.
that's too, because I'm sure from Ed Wood's perspective, he thought he was like a big shot hero when he was just at a clinic.
No, yeah, because he was like thinking he was like the main character, just like, oh, I hope no one finds out about my secret underwear fetish or something.
You know what? That's a good point. Yeah, how he's just like, I don't care if I die, but I do care if I get wounded and they're gonna tear me open and find out I'm wearing panties. It's just like, oh, yeah. Thinking about it, yeah, that does seem like main character syndrome.
Yeah.
Oh. See, that's the brilliance of this movie. It's not very historically accurate, but much like something like Amadeus, where it's not entirely historically accurate, you don't really care because it's just so fascinatingly told anyway.
It's both tragic and also like uplifting. It's weird.
If it could be a straight adaptation,
it's like a straight adaptation of it. Yeah.
Now, if we had a straight one, I feel like that'd be less interesting. They play with the facts in a way to like better get what Ed Wood was like and what his movies were like about. Because it's neat, very well.
Yeah, it's like it's like both a tragedy of like not being able to move on or like to look from a different viewpoint, but at the same time it's uplifting because it's like, okay, there's also some good here. Where it's like he tried his best, he did what he wanted, there was no compromise, and he was happy. Yeah, at some point he was happy.
At the end of the day, I kind of respect Ed Wood. Even though he had his own theories and problems. Famously.
It's a very complicated like whole topic at hand, but it's like, there was something to that like was honest while at the same time fucking stupid. But there's something to it. There was something.
Oh, absolutely, and that's what I love about this movie is that I think it's at times horribly depressing, but I get something out of it. I am inspired to like create, even if it's shit, because that's what Ed Wood did, and he eventually got a biopic made by Tim Burton about him. So hey, sometimes there's a silver lining.
Yeah, sometimes he may have died in a very horrible death, but it's fine.
That's fine.
In a weird way, it's kind of a motivating movie. A fucking Ed Wood can make his passion project. Why can't anyone? If you really think about it.
Exactly.
I can make a movie about space wizards myself.
Yeah, there you go.
This is a movie.
It's a movie
about space wizards
for children.
It's for children.
Stop making up shit.
So shit to good about.
Oh, no.
What the fuck happened?
People are saying the prequels are good. What the fuck happened?
Oh, well, do you guys have anything else to say about Ed Wood before I talk about this DVD?
The main thing, I remember I watched Bride of the Monster for this. It's boring. I don't know.
Yeah. Very boring.
It has, Bela Lugosi. That was nice to see, but like I don't really care at all. It's like, there's a Loch Ness monster we have to find, and there's like a giant tentacle monster, and all I thought was, tentacle porn. Yay.
Like, I do remember when it came to the scene between Loretta and Dolores when they were filming it in Ed Wood. I was just like, I remember that scene, and it's just as petty as it actually was in the movie.
No, if I watch the movie, if I'm remembering, now I remember it. It's like, oh my god, I know about that. It was in the movie biopic thing.
It is. It's very much a biopic move where you're just like pointing like Leo from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Like that's what the movie's meant for. But I feel like when even though that stuff does kind of annoy me when it comes to stuff like The Disaster Artist or fucking Mank, even I think that was actually kind of frustrating. How it's trying to like get you to be excited about these movies, but then it's like, okay, you're getting me excited for these movies, but you're not really getting me excited for your movie. Whereas I feel like this movie actually succeeds because I'm both. Yeah. Well, for one, it's Bride of the fucking Monster. I'm not passionate about that movie, but the fact that you're recreating this scene from it, I'm just like, oh, this is actually really cool.
Yeah, they just the kind of fun.
There I am, Ed Wood. There I am.
Like, whoa, whoa, this looks like a pretty cool movie. Plan 9.
Plan 9. Look at the production of this movie. It sounds fun. And then the movie's like, I want to fall asleep.
Yeah, exactly.
Please kill me.
Exactly. Yeah, but you know what? It's the infectious way that Tim Burton films it that gets you excited. That almost convinces you to be excited for Ed Wood's actual movies. When in reality, just watch Ed Wood, the Ed Wood movie, Johnny Depp, Tim Burton. Like, just watch that movie. You're gonna get infinitely more interesting things out of it.
See, I know probably Glenda is probably like one of his best movies, but even that's probably still bad.
That was the one where
I have not seen it.
I remember watching this movie. I was like, that movie might be fun. But I thought, I was like, It was the 50s. They probably wasn't that fun.
The main thing about it is this movie explores the sexuality of Ed Wood a lot better than probably Glenda ever did. In some way.
I mean, no, that definitely. I mean, because it was the 90s, it was a very different time from the 50s, so like you definitely could get away with that.
And that's another thing. Like, so bad as good movie standards in the 50s are way different than we have now. Because, like,
that's true too.
If an Ed Wood movie came out today, people wouldn't bat an eye. That's not like worst movie material now.
In fact, you could argue like modern blockbuster movies are worse than Ed Wood. So like,
well, because Ed Wood had passion.
Yeah.
Be like, I don't know.
Yeah, definitely.
Because I don't know. Because it was the 50s, I feel like no other time period people would call Ed Wood the worst director. Things were very limited.
The main thing about that is like he was awarded worst director because of like the Golden Turkey Awards.
Yeah, it was something like that. Some the Golden Critic awarded it.
Yeah. Two critics. I forget their exact names, but they wrote a book, the Golden Turkey Awards, and they awarded him the worst director of all time, which ironically led to him getting more success from that. And then exactly. Ed Wood mania, you could say, happened. And then this biopic happened. So
well, I mean, when you compare the 50s to now, like there's about like 100 Ed Woods today because you get like Full Moon Features. You get directors like Brett Kelly who made such classics as Homicycle and Ouija Shark, and I mean, I hope I'm getting that right. I think Brett Kelly also directed Ouija Shark. I don't, but you get what I'm saying. Like,
yeah.
You know, but you know what I'm saying. Like the kinds of movies that you find on Tubi, and you're just like, oh, this is what qualifies as a movie nowadays.
Ed Wood, unlike Ed Wood, unlike a Ouija Shark, has like passion, unlike that, which is probably just like, I need some money right now.
Are you implying that Ouija Shark had zero passion put into it?
Well, maybe there was passion. Who knows?
Maybe there was a deep artistic intent there. Who knows?
Did you say deep autistic?
I said artistic, not autistic.
Okay,
maybe Ouija Shark. Maybe Ouija Shark has some autistic qualities. Who knows?
Maybe
can a movie have autistic qualities? I wonder.
I
wonder.
Kinda. Depends on your definition of autistic, but
depends.
I mean, it's a spectrum, so.
Right?
Yeah.
We're talking Christian autism or what?
Oh, if we're talking Christian autism, we got to move on.
No. Let's not get into the whole mother thing. Okay, let's move on. Oh no,
I'm working on it anyway.
Christian and one.
Ooh. Anyway, Ed Wood. I own it on DVD.
Ooh, nice.
It's a special edition DVD from. I don't know what year this is from actually, but it's silver. It looks really cool. I really think it's a little banged up, but like it still works. I put the disc in; it works just fine. One thing I want to mention though is the menu for Ed Wood. So it's one of those like, you know, special early 2000s menus where it's like the animated menus where like they actually put some thought into it.
They put thought into the packaging. Oh my god, it's crazy.
I know you rarely ever see that anymore. But anyway, what happens was, so it's a menu of so it's like a shot from like a theater's perspective, where like you're like surrounded by people sitting in theater seats. Yeah.
Oh, that looks cool.
But it's like a contemporary theater. It's not like a it's like a contemporary theater. It's not like a 50s theater setting. And then
that's weird.
And then all of a sudden you see like on the screen, like then like the options pop up where it's like play movie and scene selection, bonus features and stuff like that. And it's like playing like clips from the movie like in the background. And it was really weird because it's like like if it was like a black and white theater with like 50 people dressed in like 50s garb, like wearing like 50s 3D glasses, like it's like okay, then I'd get it.
Okay, they put thought into it, but not in the right way. That's weird.
Exactly. It was like contemporary, like early 2000s. Like people had like baggy jeans and sweatshirts, and I was like,
that's weird.
What is this? Like this is so strange.
This is a strange contrast. That's weird.
It was very strange, but it was really funny, and I was like taken aback by it.
Maybe is there any
neat bonus features?
So in terms of bonus features, I didn't get to all of them, but it's like, standard stuff like deleted scenes, behind the scene featurettes. It has a music video.
Oh, what?
I didn't get to watch the music video, but like, yeah, it has audio commentary.
Can Ed Wood rap or something, please?
Maybe, yeah.
They should have done a tie-in music video for Ed Wood.
Yeah, exactly.
Rapping Johnny Depp sounds great.
Rapping Johnny Depp. No, he was breakdancing Johnny Depp in Alice in Wonderland.
Oh God!
Everybody remembers that.
I don't want to remember that movie.
Yeah, no, I don't either. So,
oh boy.
But yeah, no, I think this is a very neat DVD. I know it's a DVD, and I probably could own this on like a nice 4K or a nice Blu-ray, but I really like this DVD. I think it's really cool. I like the silver shininess to it. And like I said with that menu, it's so bafflingly contrasted with the actual movie that I kind of want to keep it just for that.
It sounds interesting.
The thing is, this movie does not have a 4K, so...
Oh, really? Okay, well,
it
should.
It should, because I know Sleepy Hollow got like a 4K recently with that steelbook.
Then it's only a matter of time.
It's only a matter of time. It should get.
This is like considered his like best movies. I'm sure they'd get on it eventually.
It's one of his less popular movies, but
it is one of his less popular movies, which I think is a shame because I genuinely do think this is my favorite.
It's probably
film.
Definitely.
Yeah. I have a soft spot for the Batman movies. I have a soft spot for Beetlejuice.
Yeah, I love Returns. It's so good. Yeah.
I love Pee-wee's Big Adventure. I think that's a very good movie. I can't wait to talk about that one. Basically, if it's from the late 80s, early 90s, Tim Burton, I love it.
Yeah, that's the premium stuff.
I'm a little iffy on Edward Scissorhands, but I do like most of it, I think. But I am more of a fan of Batman and Ed Wood for sure.
From memory, I like Edward Scissorhands, but it's been like a couple of years, so I'd have to check on that.
It's been a couple of years for me. Too.
I like the Batman ones too, even though they're not like favorites. Batman Returns, weirdly enough, I know people are mixed on that one, but that's the one I really like.
Okay, the main thing about that one is like
Burton.
I really like. I like both of them, but Batman, the first one is way more heavily flawed to me in a way. I of course I love Jack Nicholson as Joker, and I really like that stupid fucking finale. Where it's like they're just like it's like a slow dangling. They're just like somehow Joker like pulls both of them down. That was a really weird thing. It's like his one arm has like the weight to just push them all off. It's weird.
Well, that's what happens when you never rub another man's rhubarb.
That's true.
That's true. Batman Returns I much prefer. I think it's like a lot more
that one I just like because it's unhinged. Like Danny DeVito bites the guy's nose. It's like See, this is
I can't view it the same because I've recently watched through all of It's Always Sunny, so now I view that way more differently.
Frank would do that. That makes sense.
Yeah, Frank would do that. Yeah.
Look, let me just tell you guys, the only reason Batman Returns has 4 stars, according to me, is because Batman says eat floor.
Wow.
This is a great
you can't argue with that.
I haven't eaten all day. Eat floor. I love that. So good.
Classic Tim Burton.
All right. Dudes, Brian, why don't you shout out your stuff? Where can people find you specifically?
Well, good thing you asked, Kyle. The main thing I have going on right now is I have a podcast with my friend Anthony called Campycast. You yourself were on, like I believe a month or so back.
I was.
Yeah.
Whoa, I didn't know about that.
Yeah, I just recently re-recorded our next big episode on all of Gravity Falls, so that should be in the next upcoming days. Excited for that to be recorded. And other than that, I have a Letterboxd. I do Keep in mind, if you do look, a lot of those are probably incomprehensible to someone who isn't in on the inside joke, but it's there. Yeah, you can look. It's there. And I also technically have a YouTube, but I haven't uploaded anything on that yet. But
he's working on a video. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Ooh, that's very ominous sounding. Those are my Those are my plugs.
I'll put all your links in the description.
The main thing about his videos, I'm gonna edit it, so that's fun.
Yeah.
Ooh, there you go. Well, Zander, is there anything you want to shout out? Where can people find you?
Mainly, I have a collection of like 1,000 or so reviews on Letterboxd. You can check that out. I also have a YouTube, and I recently released a big 43-minute video on a Pixar movie. And that's you should check that out. It's a bit messy, but it's I think it's good.
You did good.
Yeah, you did good. I watched it. It was very messy, but you know what? All our first videos are messy. My very first video was also on a Pixar movie. It was on Monsters University, and that one is very messy. So we all got to start somewhere.
I think you've actively advised against watching that on the server once. I remember.
Maybe. I mean, the only reason I would actively...
I think it was just the audio or something you said is really...
Yeah, no, because I was genuinely terrible at mixing audio, because you genuinely can't hear me at times in the video because I just played the music too loud.
Well, everyone has to have their first video. Yeah,
I also have a Twitter, which I use once a month to shit post. So alright. That's it.
Yeah, no, your links will also be in the description below.
Right.
So.
Yay.
Thanks for having me, Hal. It was a great time.
Yeah.
It was a great time. No. I appreciate this.
Yeah, of course. I'm glad you guys did this last minute. I have a million other episodes I probably could have moved to now, but that would have required just so much planning. And honestly, I feel like I should have gotten Salt out of the way, because I do need to chip away at this pile.
You need to get it out of there.
See, no one was willingly going to claim Salt, so you might as well just force it onto someone.
Exactly. It's one of those. I feel like I need to force more movies onto people.
Thank you for throwing
watching Salt.
You really threw me a curve when you said Salt. I was like, oh god, no.
We do need more of these kinds of episodes in the future, because what? If I don't force people, without forcefulness, we wouldn't have the Showgirls episode, because William forced me to watch Showgirls.
So. Again. That's
I can't believe you got the fucking 4K for that.
Hey, it's
a nice looking 4K.
I mean, it's a nice 4K, nice. But it's for Showgirls. So.
Yeah, I'm looking right at it. It's up on the shelf. There forever.
Nice.
Yeah, the main thing here is that this is a good leeway before we get into my Alvin episode. Oh god, that's gonna probably take a couple months for that to happen, but that'll be fun.
Yeah,
it's gonna be a lot. That's gonna be a fucking lot. Oh god.
Well, we got to get to the Barbenheimer episode first. I've already put it off for too long. It'll be next week. It'll be the episode after this episode. I swear.
If you wait too long, Nolan will drop the bomb on you. You can't do
that.
I've been against the Barbenheimer thing altogether. I was like, no. I was like,
no.
Anthony pitched a campy cast, and immediately I was like, no, I'm not doing that.
It's too conservative. You can't do
most of your ideas, but no, I'm turning this one down immediately.
No, I've fallen for the Barbenheimer propaganda, but it's also an excuse for me to watch Tenet on Blu-ray, because I own Tenet on Blu-ray.
Yeah, you love me from Tenet. So
I love Tenet. I haven't seen Tenet, but I love Tenet.
Tenet, bro. It broke new ground.
Broke new ground. Anyway, thank you guys for coming on, and thank you, the listener, for listening to this podcast. If you want to support the show, give a like, give a comment, listen to us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, or on YouTube as well. That's fine too. Also, I just want to give a little shout out. I've been making a bunch of YouTube shorts on episodes of the past couple months, just because I want to break into the Shorts algorithm. It hasn't worked so far because YouTube fucking sucks, but I'm still trying it out, so look for those as well. I've also been streaming a while now.
Sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes I stream. The last stream I did was on the 1 year anniversary of the podcast, so that was cool. Yeah. So look out for all of those. But yeah, thanks for watching, and always remember, pull the string!
Yeah. Bye-bye.
I agree.
All right, goodbye, everybody.
When you're doing that end bit, I like imagine the outro music in my head because I know how it goes from like the couple episodes I've watched. Just